Hey guys, I'm Hellhound. Welcome back to the Horror Metal channel. How are you guys doing? I'll take a little break from YouTube. I've been playing World of Warcraft and watching Battlestar Galactica. Constantly, pretty much all I do anymore. Yeah, no, I need to get a life. I'm such a loser. But anyway, I had an idea for what I think would make an interesting video, which would be a top 10 favorite superhero cartoons. So yeah, that's what we're going to do today. I've also been doing some voiceover work, some voice acting for Jidlid's channel, most notably Bad Arse and Shit Kicker, which I think is a really awesome cartoon, like a Western theme. So definitely check out Jidlid's channel. Check him out. He's got some great work. He's very talented, some awesome animations, and some other very talented voice actors on there. So yeah, definitely check out Jidlid. I had to give him a shout out, and I've been doing voice work for some of his shows. So take a look. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Top 10 favorite superhero cartoons based on a comic book. I don't really count the Ninja Turtles as a superhero cartoon, but if you really want to count that, just say that these are the top 10 DC and Marvel, I guess. If you think I should count Ninja Turtles, chances are your favorite might not be on the list. This is only my opinion, or your favorite might not be as high as you want it to be, or whatever. This is just my opinion. Feel free to leave your own list in the comments below. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, number 10. Super Friends. I love this show. I grew up watching this. I watched this a lot growing up, like with Hanna-Barbera cartoons and stuff during kind of that era. It's kind of what it makes me think of. But especially like Challenge of the Super Friends. This one, that was always my favorite incarnation because it had the Legion of Doom. It was kind of the first incarnation of the Super Friends to really have a lot of the super villains from the comics. This is the third iteration of the show, I believe. I think there was like 7 or 8 versions, but I think this was the third one. This is always my favorite. Challenge of the Super Friends is always my favorite. I always thought it was the closest to the Justice League comics at the time. Yeah, very great cartoon, very fun. I'm glad I have this on DVD now to relive some great memories, some good childhood nostalgia. Yeah, very fun stuff. So, highly recommend it. It's a little cheesy and dated now, but it's so enjoyable. It's so entertaining and fun. So, yeah, Super Friends, my 10th favorite superhero cartoon. Number 9, SpiderMan and His Amazing Friends. This is another show I grew up watching. And this is actually the first adaptation of Spider-Man I ever watched. I read the comics, but this is the first time, this is my first experience with Spider-Man other than the comic books, was Spider-Man His Amazing Friends. It's a great idea to have him team up with Iceman and new character Firestar, who's created just for this show. They were former XMen, teamed up with the Web Slinger to battle all kinds of classic foes, and there's cameos from the Hulk and Thor and several other great villains like Doctor Doom and Red Skull. Very good cartoon, pretty accurate to the comics too. It's a little corny and dated nowadays. I mean, it's from 1981, but I absolutely loved it. I watched it as a kid all the time. I used to rent some of the tapes from the video store and watch them as well. I just love this cartoon. It's a very, very beloved favorite of mine. It's very, very nostalgic. Very fun watching that growing up. All right, so now we're getting to some of the more recent, more serious takes on the comic book characters. And my number 8 choice would be the Incredible Hulk. This cartoon is underrated. The '90s did a hell of a job with the superhero cartoons, which I'll get more into here in a second. This is easily the most accurate Hulk adaptation there is, and the very best in my opinion. Absolutely love it. The Hulk, Bruce Banner, and all the classic characters, Betty Ross and Thunderbolt Ross and Doc Samson, the Leader, the Abomination, they're all here. She-Hulk, the Grey Hulk, Rick Jones, they're all here and done very well. The voice acting's great, the animation's great. Absolutely love it. This is again, this is my favorite adaptation of the Hulk. I even like it better than the live-action TV series with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno. That's a great show too, but in my live-action shows, that would be on the list, but this is my favorite adaptation of the Hulk. The 80s cartoon is pretty good too, but this one's just awesome. This one was way more faithful to the comics, and just action-packed and highly entertaining. Highly recommended for any Hulk fans. I absolutely love it. I really like the way they did Bruce Banner. He was a really tragic character, always struggling with his dual identity as the big green behemoth, and everything was just done very well. Highly recommended, so check it out. Alright, so number 7 would have to be Superman, the animated series. This is from the makers of the Batman series, and they did a great job with this as well. It's Bruce Timm and company. This is the definitive Superman for me, for sure. I love the Christopher Reeve movies, but this is just a little bit better. Yeah, some great villains. You can see Superman battling Darkseid, and of course Lex Luthor, and Parasite, and Metallo, and Bizarro, and all them. Of course Lois Lane, they're all here. This is the best Superman cartoon by far, and very, very good superhero cartoon in general. Highly recommended. Fans of the Batman, the '90s Batman animated series, definitely check this out. It's pretty solid follow up. And they even have a crossover, Superman Batman World's Finest, which is everything that Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice should have been, and it's just so awesome. That's my favorite episode. It's just great. So yeah, Superman the animated series, my 7th favorite for very good reason. Hell, maybe it should be even higher. But anyway, let's move on. Number 6, Avengers, the Earth's Mightiest Heroes. This is the best adaptation of the Avengers. I know I'm saying that for like all these cartoons, but it's so true. It's pretty close to the Avengers comics too, and we have an arsenal of supervillains. So many supervillains here, and they're all done very well. We got the leader, we got Loki, you got the Red Skull. There's so many. Surprisingly, Thanos never made an appearance in this show. I don't think he was in the Silver Surfer cartoon, but he was never in Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So that's my only issue with it. They should have had Thanos. Maybe there was some reason, some copyright issue or some licensing issues that they couldn't. But Thanos should have been here. But otherwise, this is a great show. Great voice acting, great animation. I absolutely love it. This is the definitive version of the Avengers. I like this even better than the MCU. I'm sorry to say. I love the MCU, but they need to take notes from this show, because it's the best adaptation of the Avengers by far. Great Marvel cartoon, great ensemble piece. Absolutely love it. It's just very thrilling and just a great time. All right, now we're down to the top 5. Number 5, The Spectacular Spider-Man. This is a great cartoon. Truth be told, I don't care much for recent cartoons. Like, a lot of the post, like, mid-2000s cartoons, like after Cartoon Network, the cartoons ended, I don't watch a lot of more recent cartoons. I'm mostly I watch cartoons all the way from like the 40s all the way to like the 90s. Anything after that I don't like, but these are the exception. And Spectacular Spider-Man is excellent. This is my 2nd favorite adaptation of Spider-Man ever. It was done very well, great voice acting. I don't really care for the art style. As you can see, the characters are drawn in that weird, like, overly cutesy or, like, overly, like, ugly way. The Green Goblin looks kind of stupid. I'm not a big fan of the art style, but it grew on me. The animation's great. It flows very well. I thought that there were certain characters that looked too similar, like Eddie Brock and Flash Thompson, and I think John Jameson. They all look very, very similar. So it's like they used the same character model for some of the other characters, but yeah, Spider-Man was done well. The villains were done well. We finally get to see the Sandman. He wasn't in the '90s cartoon. Yeah, they're all here. They were all done well. I really wish it would have got renewed for a 3rd season, because we would have seen Carnage and Hobgoblin and Scorpion. They weren't in these first 2 seasons. It really sucks the show got canceled. I wish they would bring it back, because this show was the bomb. I absolutely loved it. It came around at the same time. It's 2008, I believe, so it was right after the Raimi trilogy ended. And this is very similar to the Raimi trilogy. They took a lot of cues from that, but I think it's actually even better. So it's my 2nd favorite adaptation of Spider-Man ever. Absolutely love it. It's just great. It's perfect in every way. I really don't have anything bad to say about it, other than I wish it would have kept going. And art style is not that great, but it grew on me. It's not a big deal. I kind of like it now. All right, so number 4. Hold on. Number 4, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. They're tied for the number 4 spot, because it's the same show. This is a continuation of Justice League. Yeah, this is the best superhero ensemble group. Well, like a super group, like this is even better than the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon. This was just done very, very well. Wow, yeah, Bruce Timm and company, the creative force behind the Batman animated series and the Superman animated series. This is a continuation of those, and they just really outdid themselves. It's really, really, really serious and really gritty, and just very adult. I actually enjoy this series more as an adult than I did when I was younger. This one actually came out later. This is in the early 2000s, so I was already older when this came out anyway. But and I would have really loved it when I was a little kid too. But I think this is even more enjoyable for adults in a lot of ways. Have done very well. My only complaint is that I wish that it started out Hal Jordan as Green Lantern and Barry Allen as the Flash, and then later introduced Jon Stewart and Wally West. I've always loved those 2 characters together. I always thought they played off each other well. I really like Wally West in this. Jon Stewart, I think he's like a little too serious. I remember the comic, he was really fun. I remember his first appearance in a Green Lantern comic when he first became a Lantern. He threw his mask off and said, "This black man lets it all hang out." You know, he was fun. He was really fun. And this one, he's just a little too serious. He's a former Marine, which I guess was a good idea, but I don't know. I think he was just a little too too dull and just too, I don't know. It didn't really have. But I guess that was the point. They needed a serious character to kind of balance it out with a Flash. He was a total comedian in this. He was hilarious. But other than that, I have nothing bad to say about this cartoon. It was just great. It's very fun. I rewatched it recently. Absolutely love it. I love it when they all team up against a bunch of super villains. It's excellent. I have nothing. I can't really say much more about it other than definitely check it out. Justice League, my number 4 choice. Sorry, great show. Number 3, my third favorite superhero cartoon, definitely the '90s SpiderMan animated series, which still needs a proper DVD release. It's available everywhere except for America, even though it's an American show. Idiots, release it already, freaking morons. Sorry, just had to rant for a minute. I love this show. I love this cartoon. I grew up watching this. This is my second introduction to Spider-Man after Amazing Friends, not counting the comics. This is the definitive Spider-Man. This was perfect. I will say the 5th season got a little weird, the Clone Saga and I don't know, alternate universes and stuff. It got a little confusing, but up until that point, it was just excellent. The Green Goblin was done perfectly. Venom was done perfectly. Dr. Octopus. We have Mary Jane. There's no Gwen Stacy in this cartoon, but Mary Jane was done really well. And Christopher Daniel Barnes, who voices Spider-Man, did a perfect job. He's the best Spider-Man voice actor by far. Yeah, I really have nothing bad to say about the cartoon. I grew up watching it. I loved it back then. I love it now. A lot of people complain, say it's too fast-paced. It does seem like it moves in fast motion, and I think they overused Kingpin a little bit. He was like hooked into everything. I mean, I swear, everything that was going on in this show, Kingpin was connected to it somehow. And I kind of overdid Morbius a little bit, too, and some of their characters. It got kind of weird towards the end with Mary Jane as a clone and Hydra Man and some of their weirdness, but it's still great. It's still awesome. It adapted several of the arcs, some of the best arcs from the Spider-Man comics for the first time. And this is pretty much the first and only Secret Wars adaptation ever. They have a Secret Wars storyline in there. I wish it was a little closer to the comic. There's a lot of characters that were left out for copyright reasons or licensing issues or whatever. But still, Secret Wars, freaking Secret Wars is adapted in this cartoon. Isn't that, how awesome is that? And a lot of other great arcs as well, even Spider-Man becoming a mutant spider creature. But yeah, I cannot recommend this show enough. The '90s Spider-Man animated series is the bomb. I love it. All right, now we're down to the top 3. Top 2. We're down to the top 2. Number 2, definitely the X-Men animated series. As I said, the '90s, for some reason, the '90s just nailed it when it came to all the superhero cartoons. Every superhero animated series that came out in the '90s was just gold, and this is no exception. This is the definitive version of the X-Men. I know I've said that for all these shows, but I really, really mean it. It's just awesome. Wow, everybody's done well. The only thing only complaint I have to have is some of my favorite X-Men characters didn't get enough screen time. Iceman was in like 1 episode, really. Colossus, I think, wasn't in it enough. But, whatever. There's so many X-Men characters, I guess it'd be hard to adapt them all, but I kind of wish they'd started with the original team, or at least had the original team in flashbacks. Beast, Iceman, Angel, Cyclops, and Jean Grey. And of course, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Beast are part of the current team in this iteration, but I'm cool to see Angel and Iceman a little more. But yeah, it's very good. The voice acting's great. Cathal J. Dodd, especially as Wolverine, he has a great Wolverine voice. I think like pretty much every other animated Wolverine after him has taken cues from his performance and kind of tried to imitate him a little bit. Because the first animated appearance is actually in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, where he had an Australian accent. So, but yeah, this cartoon is very, very good. And I really wish they'd reboot the X-Men into the MCU and really take cues from this cartoon. Imitate this cartoon as closely as possible, because this is the best X-Men adaptation. It follows the early, like the 70s X-Men comics and the newer, like the 90s, the Jim Lee, Chris Claremont era as well. It's very similar to that, while also paying homage to the original comics, the older comics as well. So I think that's really awesome. Yeah, great cartoon, great show, one of the very best. It still holds up today. I absolutely love it. Cannot praise it enough. All right, so before we get to the number 1 spot, here are a few honorable mentions. The Iron Man cartoon, very good. Another great 90s superhero show. The Fantastic Four cartoon from the 90s. I also like the one from the 60s, as well as the 60s Spider-Man cartoon. That's another honorable mention. Yeah, this is a great. I think this is the best adaptation of the Fantastic Four. This kind of spun off into the Silver Surfer cartoon from the '90s, which I don't have on DVD, but that's another honorable mention. The Silver Surfer cartoon. Yeah, love it. Fantastic Four, really good. I really like the introductions by Stan Lee on this DVD. He introduces some of the episodes and talks about them a little bit. I thought that was really cool. I'm glad they got him for that. Rest in peace. Yeah, great cartoon. Also, the other 1981 Spider-Man cartoon that nobody seems to remember. This came out the same year as Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, but this is just Spider-Man solo by himself. This is a really, really great show. I don't like it quite as much as Amazing Friends, but it's still really good. And I think it's, I think it's one of the better Spider-Man cartoons out there. I really like it. And I'm sure there's some that I'm forgetting. Some other ones I don't have. Oh, Spawn cartoon. The Spawn cartoon is really, really good. I highly recommend that. I need to get that on DVD. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the honorable mentions. I don't want to spend too much time on that. And the number one choice, I think you already know what it is. Was there any doubt? Come on. The Batman animated series. This belongs in the number one spot in any top 10 cartoon list, superhero or otherwise. This is the best cartoon ever made. This started, I think the reason the superhero cartoons were so good in the 90s because this one. I think this is the one that started. I think they all use this as inspiration. Oh wow, this was just so good and still is. So dark, so serious, so gritty, very adult. It's even more adult than a lot of live action adaptions. It's just the voice acting by Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill especially is so good. Kevin Conroy is the definitive Batman. Mark Hamill's the definitive Joker. All the other voice acting's great. Everybody's great. Yeah, Adrienne Barbeau is Catwoman. It's just awesome. We get to see pretty much all Batman's greatest villains, all done perfectly well. Everybody gets great screen time. It was followed by the new Batman Adventures, which was still really good too, and then Batman Beyond, which is another honorable mention, another one that needed to go on DVD. Then eventually, of course, led to the Superman cartoon and the Justice League cartoon. This is the one that started it all, and this brought Batman to a whole new level. I think this was responsible for the dark, serious Batman in in other media other than the comics. Of course, there's Frank Miller and The Dark Knight Returns and stuff that made Batman more darker in the comics, and then Tim Burton's Batman that made the movies darker. This is the one that did it for the cartoons, and this is the best adaptation of Batman. This, along with the Arkham games, is by far the definitive adaptation of Batman. It's perfect in every way. I have absolutely nothing bad to say about this cartoon. It is excellent, a solid 10 out of 10, 100% gold. I love it. I've talked about this cartoon before at length in other videos, so I'll go ahead and wrap up this video by saying check out this show. It is freaking amazing. Check out all these cartoons. They're a lot of fun. I love superheroes. And I love cartoons, so as you can see. So that's my list, guys, for the top 10 superhero cartoons. Feel free to leave your choices in the comments below. And thank you for watching. I'm Hellhound. Until next time.